one counselor to come back. And we're gonna put you up front so we can hear you.
What's the motion, Don?
You know,
There she
I'm
is.
actually,
Okay.
the reason I want to do it is because I made the first motion. And that this is actually, so I'm actually going to continue with my first motion and say that I move that council receive the email from Mayor Tyler Warman regarding Slave Lake's proposal to build a training center for information.
And the reason that this is back on the agenda is it fulfills the qualifying item that you cannot bring that you can bring something back if there is more information on it. And so I think you all received an email as to when an item is dealt with at council, unless there is further information, it cannot be brought back for 6 months. So that's why this was allowed to come back. Otherwise, it would have just dropped for 6 months. So, Councillor, Mr. Melmack, as the fire chief, could you explain a little bit more on what you've seen the email from Mayor Warman?
Yeah,
So,
I've seen that email, and I don't know, I might be a bit biased, I don't know, but I personally don't agree with it, but I think that being how we're neighbors and we have to work together with Slave Lake, I think we should give them a letter of support. It's not going to cost us anything, it's just being a neighborly thing. I highly doubt that they will ever get the money for it. Last week at the North Peace Fire Chiefs in Peace River, there was a lot of talk about this, and everybody just sort of laughed about it. They said $12.5 million, there's no way they're gonna get it. But everybody in the Peace is sending a letter of support just to be neighborly and just, I mean, we don't wanna make enemies with Slave Lake. So personally, I feel that we should go ahead with a letter of support, but seeing how the press has gone, I don't agree with it. So, I mean, Slave Lake has already benefited hugely from that fire. I mean, they've got all their new fire halls, they've got the state-of-the-art equipment, they've got state-of-the-art training facilities, they've got state-of-the-art exercise rooms, they've got saunas in all their fire halls, and that was all provided by the government, like saunas and workout rooms and stuff like that. Like, it's ridiculous. They've gone overboard.
okay.
So, but personally, I think that because we are neighbors to Slave Lake, and I don't want to end up with High Prairie and Slave Lake fighting. So I think we should just go ahead and do the neighborly thing and give them a letter of support for their training facility. And like I said, I highly doubt that the government has $12.5 million to give them, so.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about where do you send your fighters? There's-
Right now, if we have anything to do with wildland interface or Fire Smart or anything like that, we send them to the ESRD school in Hinton. That school has been in Hinton now for quite a number of years. I can't exactly say how long, but I mean, they have everything, all the courses there is to do with wildland interface, Fire Smart, things like that. So, in my mind, there's no reason to really build another facility in the province, if we already have one.
But the Mayor Warman doesn't talk about a wildfire. He talks about fires, floods, train derailments, communication outages.
Yeah, that in a way is covered by disaster services if you're talking about floods and train derailments and things like that. So, I don't know. I don't agree
Where
with
do
it.
most of the fire departments in northwestern Alberta send their people? Is there any other facility other than Hinton?
There's a fire training school in Vermilion, and that is just getting to the point where it's so costly now that most of the firefighting courses are done in-house. Like, we apply for these grants every year, and we get our grant money, and we hold the courses like wherever. Some are in High Level, some are in Peace River, some are in Grand Prairie, Sexsmith, Beaver Lodge. Like, we all take turns hosting different courses,
Okay.
and they're on everything from firefighting to you name it. And like I say, the train derailments and floods and things like that, that's all pertains to disaster services. And disaster services has a multitude of courses that they have as well, so.
Councillor Panasic, do you have anything you want to add?
No, that was my question, because I'd heard that maybe Hinton was getting into it, and that made me curious, but they're still doing the same thing. It's the wildland firefighting
Yeah.
that they're in, and it's not municipal. They're not getting into municipal firefighting.
No,
No, okay.
that would be done through Vermilion, or,
disaster, yeah.
it's getting to the point now where Vermilion is getting too expensive, so like to do your 10-01 program, it's about $18,000 per firefighter to go to Vermilion. Where we can do it at home now, and do it in-house courses for probably $5,000-6,000 a person, so. It just, more and more communities are doing it that way, so.
Councillor Rose?
So, I mean, it sounds like it's likely that the funding would be, there wouldn't be a great opportunity for them to get the funding, but if they did and they actually built the facility, is there any, is it negative at all? Wouldn't it not be a benefit for our area that it would be close by, like if it actually happened? Or what would be the harm in us supporting it?
It wouldn't really be a harm, it's just other than our tax dollars, but, I mean, it would benefit us in a way, because rather than sending our people to Hinton, we could send them to Slave Lake.
Sounds like it'd just be closer, like if they actually were successful. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that our tax dollars will go up. We've seen the government make other odd choices with where they place their funds, but
Maybe now with the carbon tax levies, maybe they will have the
There
money
you
to
go.
pay for it, I don't know.
okay, I was just curious whether there was any downside if they actually go.
No, I don't
It's just
think
that you
there's a
don't think it's
downside
a
to
great
them,
idea.
other than tax dollars,
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
Councillor Danaka?
Well, as
Can you turn your
Chief
mic on?
Melnick said, it doesn't.
Mike?
Thank you. As Chief Melnick said, it doesn't cost us anything to send a letter of support for it, whether they receive it or the funding or not. And if they're successful, then we have the potential to go to Slave as opposed to Hinton or Vermilion. So I'm in support of sending a letter.
And Councillor Gilroy?
I'm looking at, or I have actually been looking at this, and it's interesting that in a study that they've already done some work with the government of Alberta, and that to say that a gap exists in this, but I guess I'm looking at more of the way our fire departments really putting a lot of effort into their training area, and the idea that they are trying to make it an extremely good place in which to also have other groups come and train as well, and share their knowledge and qualification, even probably expanding it to deal with some of these things. And I would maybe I'm a bit of a protectionist there, but I think that our guys are doing a very good job, and I would probably prefer to, in this case, encourage our guys to continue what they're doing, and that, as I've said before, would be a way that we would also benefit from bringing other fire groups in here, into our area, to train and even do mini competitions in that, which the fire chief and I have talked about. So there are pros and cons of both, but I wanted to give that as more of an encouragement to the quality of our firefighters. That's why I said for information purposes.
I'm probably going to support this, the next motion that is going to call for a letter of support, because I think yours is going to be defeated.
I think it will be.
And the reason I am going to support it is I'm thinking to myself that this is an advantage to our region, and if you think regionally, if this does occur, it will benefit our whole region. And I guess also I'm looking at the fact that we're looking for an integrated college here, and I'm certainly sure that we can count on the support of the town of Slave Lake in our efforts to get an integrated college.
Right.
So-
And if we don't play in the sandbox with them, they're not gonna play with us, so.
Exactly.
Will that
And
request
it
be
just-
in the same letter as our letter of,
No, but it will be a mark on the wall for us to
Yeah,
to
we
call
are
in
neighbors, so we
one
have to
day.
be able to work together, so, that's my,
Yeah.
my feeling is I think just to be neighborly, I think we should give them a letter of support. And
Okay, so is there any other questions, comments, anything like that? Then we have the motion to receive for information. All in favor? Opposed? And it is defeated. Would somebody like to make another motion? Councillor Rose?
The council send a letter of support to the town of Slave Lake in their endeavors to build a regional fire training center.
No comments. All in favor? Opposed? And don't be too enthusiastic. No, I'll sign it because, yeah, Warman asked me. So, all right, next item. Yes.
I'll risk again. I move the council purchase a space in the Northern Woods and Water Highway Association Highway Guide at whatever cost the council deems well, as well as purchase the membership. Can I do those in the same one? Okay, with Northern Woods and Water Highway Association at the cost of $1,000 and charge it to economic development. I'm kidding.
Comments?
Do we not have to put an amount in there as to what we're talking, what you actually want?
Well, actually, my comment was going to be, I think this is an administration item as to whether they wish to advertise. I don't think it's actually anything for us to decide to do. You have an advertising budget, don't you?
And the
So-
members? It's just whether we should belong.
But
Like,
it's
I don't
the
familiar-
membership.
That's right, I'm not that familiar with who they are. Does anybody have any thoughts on, Brian, is this, like, this was brought to us because you guys think it's a good idea? Or, like, I've never heard of them before, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're not a very good publication.
They've been coming through High Prairie since the early 90s. When I first started here, George Stevenson out of McLennan had started this group. And he would come through and he would get a hold of the CAO at the time and he would tell them that he's bringing whatever, 40 trailers through the traveling in a cavalcade. And they were coming through and they wanted to stop, and so the town manager at that time would have tea and coffee and water and cookies here, and they'd come in and he'd hand out pins and pamphlets on information on the town of High Prairie, and basically spend an hour with them and visit with them, and then they'd be on their way to the next ones. Don Mackay always told me, he said, they're a bunch of freeloaders. That's what he always told me, but they were always coming through every year that I worked here for years, and then all of a sudden,
It died.
George, yeah.
He died.
He died. and
The organization fell apart.
Yeah.
And must have been 10, 15 years. If you travel the road, you'll still see the highway signage is still on the road, Northern Woods and Water. And the gentleman who is trying to revive this used to be an employee of ours, didn't he?
Yeah, Dale.
Dale Harris. Harrison, and he was our treasurer. And I'm trying to think of who, under which CIO, Tamaclo?
He started here right after I left, and so he was only here for about 8 months, and he was under Chris Parks.
Right, that's right, yes. And then there was a bit of a personality conflict of some sort, and he left abruptly. He went a few other places, and he's close to semi-retirement age, and he wants to pick this up and start doing it again. So they have a website. If you've gone on it, you will actually see the cavalcade that he, just himself, he went through it and has done a lot. I think I've sent you information on this. And he's doing newsletters now, and he is actually trying to revive the route and the interest in the tourism portion of it. So I'm not exactly sure how much he is getting of interest, but I do know that before it was a very good organization.
I believe the route has changed. The map isn't very clear that you have in front of you, but it doesn't show going through High Prairie. But I know the map at one time, it did go through Flair, McLennan, High Prairie, that way. But I think they're making it actually like a loop now where you could tour across Alberta by one major highway and return, go down through BC and return on a Trans-Canada, so.
I did talk to him,
There has been some changes.
and he did say actually in Manitoba it's really taking off, and in eastern Saskatchewan. But then there's a lot of smaller villages along that way, so they're looking for people to come through. So the motion is for administration to buy space and for a $1,000 membership. We can take the $1,000 and push it to budget, or you can put it in. Should it be going to budget, or?
It depends if council wants it to be for the 2016 year, for the 2017 year. If it's the 2017 year, you could make the motion right now to include it in the 2017 budget, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it being already in there. Or you can wait to approve it till at that time. That is up to you. But I do believe the 2016 year is pretty well done. This is probably for 2017.
Councillor Gilroy?
The reason I made the motion the way I did is I was thinking that it would be good to, especially with these requests, to put them toward the economic development budget we were looking at for 2017, because we really do need to start focusing and have a direction on how we're going to actually do economic planning for the town.
All right.
I'm just curious, the website means that the $1,000 for a membership means we're contributing to this website, so it would be a portion that we would pay to that website, and like I understand the advertising, it would go in a brochure. Does anybody ever seen their brochure, come across it? Is it in our tourist information booth? Do we?
I'm not sure if he's, I'm trying to think, did I actually get a copy? Did I send you a copy of the brochure? Nope.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's out there. Like, I've never heard of this group before, and that's my own. And what's the $1,000 I read? It's just to update the website.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to update their website, right? And I don't know
And other initiatives.
how much it's used either. I'm just curious, what's the bang for the dollar here? Is there any data on how many hits their website gets? Anything like that?
We can ask him to come to council and do a presentation, and this,
Or I'd be open to an amendment where we drop the membership and just do the ad till we get more information.
Any ideas of circulation? How many?
20,000,
Oh, I didn't see that. 4,000?
20.
20?
It's on page 25 at the
Oh,
top.
okay. So they get it out to 25,000. Well, that's not bad. Eh?
If they get it out. It just says printed and distributed.
Yeah.
and I know he'd be more than willing to come and talk. He sent us,
Yeah, like having them come, 'cause, I mean, I agree that we need to drive economic development,
Yeah,
and I agree
I
that tourism is definitely the place that we should be putting our dollars in. But is this effective? Is this the place to put it? Like, it'd be nice to hear from him and ask him some questions, and then even have the opportunity to do a little more research on our own as to what you can find, about this company or, on their website.
do you want to withdraw both and just make a motion to invite him to the January 20, whatever? What's the end of the month, January 24th council meeting for a presentation?
It sounds like the consensus, so, yes.
So we have a motion then to invite Northern Woods and Water Highway Association as a delegation to the January 24th meeting. All in favor?
Yeah, just, would he
Yeah.
likely come up from Black Diamond? Like, that's a long,
No,
long
he
way.
would. He's, and I'm not sure why. I know, well, because it seems to me he's floating around here doing something in Peace River or
Oh, okay.
But- Nampa?
Yeah, family there.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
okay.
I know, I mean, he's somewhere close, like,
Okay.
I feel it.
Well, I just see the
Yeah.
address as being
Yeah.
Black Diamond, and that's the other thing I kind of went, why is somebody from Black Diamond trying to promote this?
He has
Yeah, like
family in
that's-
the area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, that's, I love that.
Okay,
Oh,
so
absolutely.
that was a motion that was carried. I saw everybody put their hand
Yeah.
up. In case you didn't notice that. Brian made the motion to invite him to the January 24th meeting for a delegation. Oh, no, because the next one deals with you. Okay, next item of business, page 28, is the municipal development plan.
I move that council give second reading of the municipal development plan bylaw 13-2016, this the 13th day of December, 2016.
All right, I just had one question. Was there anything in that development plan that they were expecting comment on from anybody? Or was it pretty well standard? There wasn't anything that they thought was going to be controversial? Yes?
I think that they had a few comments back from the school division and that, and he incorporated them all in, and including council's comments and changes and requested, and it's pretty much a standard document now.
Okay. All right then. All in favor of second reading? It's carried. We have another line there.
You know, when I look at the next line, I'm just wondering if we should wait to give the other two counselors a chance to see if they've got any feedback. Is there any rush to approve this until
They
our
had
next one?
chance. There was a email that went around to everybody and saying, here's the draft, please review and approve.
Do we know if they sent anything off to Havan? I don't know. That's why I'm not sure.
Never said they did.
Well,
Is there a need to get this approved now, or can we just do the third reading on the next one? It's quick, it's easy. If there's any feedback, I don't know if there is, but
If there was any concern, they had the opportunity to even send a message that says, I'm concerned about this. I don't think anybody did.
no.
they didn't send, okay. I don't know.
Councillor Gilroy?
If I'm not mistaken, Havan also said when he was here before that he would not present it until all of our concerns were met. And he did send the revised copies and things like that. So I think he was looking at any input that the community would have that would then delay it so that he could enhance it. And the opportunity was given to the town as well. But this is also a fluid one too. So once it's done, I'm sure that amendments, if need be, could be made at a later date. But if we don't have a foundation, then we can't build on it.
Okay. Anybody want to make third reading then?
I'll make the motion that council give third reading to the MDP. How's that? Yeah, I'm shortening it now. It's getting late. Yeah, not to the NDP, to the Municipal Development Plan.
Rest-
Bylaw 13-2016, this the 13th day of December 2016.
All in favor? That's carried unanimously.
And no comments to the NDP, does it?
Yeah.
All right, the next item is the CAO's report. Do you have anything, could we get a motion? Councilor Rose.
The council receives CAO Brian Martinson's written report and action list for information.
Do you have anything you wish to bring to our attention?
Any comments on my report? Or any questions?
I just have a question that's not real. It's about your report, but because you had said you had sent a card to Anne, I didn't realize that Anne got hurt. I know it was away during time when there was those accidents on the road. Was she badly hurt?
Anne wasn't hurt.
No.
I sent her a letter.
Hers was a congratulations. to the
Congratulations for the,
I'm sorry. I should have paid closer attention to it. Okay, got it.
Congratulations for what? That was for,
they got an award for
Right.
Northern Heights College.
And you know what? You sent an email to that, and I did actually read that. Sorry. Okay.
Councillor Gilroy?
Two quick things. One, are they okay with the recycling contract? We were kind of a little concerned when we gave the garbage contract or to a local firm and only giving the recycling to the other firm. Everything settled now? 'Cause we were a little
Green for
concerned
Life.
about that.
Green for Life.
When I phoned Green for Life about the residential garbage contract, he couldn't believe council would choose that contract over his, because he was offering $100,000 worth of free garbage cans to the town library. But I also said that the local contractor is also invested in our community and has just recently bought property and is getting his foot in the door for recycling.
$100,000 worth of free garbage cans doesn't really cut it. Sorry. Unless we add
That's what
a
it-
real blue box recycling type of, like, we don't have that yet. So,
Those garbage programs, like, they look good, right? Those nice big bins that you have, and it does look very nice and neat in your community. But being part of it, I found a few problems with it. One, we own garbage cans already, so you just had to store those in the garage anyway. And they're very limited. You got the one can, and by the time you put 2 garbage bags in it and it was full, if you had 3 or you had boxes or something, they actually just left them. They didn't pick anything else up, so I don't know if that's how he was going to do it, but
That's how he's gonna do it.
that would, I thought, been a tougher adjustment for our community than, I mean, nice that they would give us the garbage cans, but yeah, there was 2 sides to
I'd
that
rather
for sure.
them take the garbage.
Exactly, please take our garbage.
Councillor Gilroy.
So the answer to my question is that he doesn't mind just doing, Green for Life doesn't mind just doing the recycling
No,
contract?
in fact, Mayor Cox just signed the agreement today.
Okay.
And I put it in the mail, so it'll be going out tomorrow.
The other thing, knowing that we just got some texts from the RCMP about the new commander, is that something you'd like to share with those who may not have read their texts yet, or the people who are watching these proceedings?
It's actually in the mayor's report where but I didn't actually give the person's name, Corporal
But-
Sergeant.
But the new sergeant is acting as interim CAO
Also.
at the detachment here in Idaho right now. Yeah, I'm lost.
So when I met with and you and I met with
John Ferguson.
was it Ferguson? Yeah,
Yeah.
John Ferguson. The gentleman that was coming from Fort McMurray, not the detachment commander, the other one that is already
Sergeant.
transferred in.
He was already here.
He's already here.
Yeah.
He is not the acting detachment commander.
He is.
Okay, so they brought him from Fort
They just
McMurray.
made that change today in
Yes.
the email today, yeah.
Okay,
Yesterday.
so he, when he came came from Fort McMurray, he'd worked under the the commander that is supposed to be coming here and hasn't been able to sell his house, he liked working under him. That's why he applied here. He wanted to continue that working relationship. He's experienced and he's mature and he's a good fit for our community. But I didn't realize that they were then going to bump him up to acting district,
He's still a sergeant, but he's acting.
And they are.
Until they have somebody in that position.
And then the next step for John Ferguson's, what he said was, they will then go back to the one in Fort McMurray, who's trying to sell his house, and offer him,
9 months residency.
9 months, there's a program there where they'll double pay. So they'll pay his mortgage or his housing expenses here while he's still trying to sell his house there. He may or may not take it. If he decides not to take that, they will probably move to open the competition again. But they're hoping he will take it, because opening the competition again is another process, and it's probably going to be another 2 years, year and a half. It takes so long for them to fill vacant positions. It's not a 3 month.
So we have an interim commander,
Yes,
but it's still a new position or a new person to the community.
yes.
Is it John Respite?
John
Respite?
Ferguson was the one that
No,
came
but John
here.
Respite was the one who was in charge. He's
Yes.
no longer in charge, but he gave information as to who the name of the gentleman who took over, the officer who took over, and that's who all questions are supposed to be
And
addressed to.
what's his name?
Cameron?
Ian, was it Ian? I can't, something.
It's in the email.
It's in the email.
I can't remember that.
Yeah, it was Cameron.
George Cameron.
Maybe it was George, but his last name was Cameron. And the other one we talked about was the dog handler's position, which was, I believe, a successful lobbying job. We should all pat ourselves on the back. We were hard-nosed about it, and I believe that the county, I'm not sure, but I think they also took it forward that we were not happy, and the enhanced policing position was on the line on this one. So now that we've received the dog handler's position, that enhanced policing funding will be coming up in the budget discussions as to what are we going to do. So,
Sergeant George Cameron.
George Cameron.
I just have a question regarding the dog handler. Did I misread the email that came through? I thought they said that after decision, they're leaving that position in high level.
There's two,
There's 2
one in high level,
and 1 here.
and there's going to be one here.
Oh, okay,
Because
Instead of bringing them to Peace River.
okay.
Sorry.
And I'm not sure if you understood the email, but for 2 weeks, it's going to be dedicated in this area. And then for 2 weeks, he's going to be on,
Whatever time off or whatever.
yeah, that,
Training
then he's available
to high level.
to high level. I think, is that how he,
Yeah.
that's how he worded it?
They're both covering
For each other.
for each other,
Yeah.
on their days off.
Right.
On their days off.
So I
that's
think we
great.
succeeded,
Yeah, that's great.
so.
We learned that the squeaky wheel does get a little grease, right?
Anything else? What's happening with this stormwater pond and 2 damaged water valves at the hospital?
They're still in negotiations.
What happened? How'd they get damaged?
We believe the contractor who Alberta Infrastructure hired to pay for those damaged them.
Oh,
They weren't damaged prior to it, but Mr. Walker has given them a price to repair both of them at a little bit of profit, I think.
I would think so. I mean, we wouldn't have had to do it otherwise.
They also paved over a couple of valves, so.
That sounds like the broadband where they laid it in the sidewalk and then put cement over top of it. Oh, okay.
Mr. Walker was very stern with them about.
That's good.
Yes.
The stormwater pond has a walkway around it, but to get to the walkway, you have to walk across a bunch of rocks. And he asked them to, provide a paved,
Trail.
a trail so that people wouldn't be walking over the rocks to get to the walking trail. And then if they tripped or hurt their ankle or whatever, sprained their ankle, then they'd be turning around and suing the town because we assumed liability, or the liability on it. So he asked for them to remove some of the rocks, and then one of the gentlemen that we had the teleconference with went into some big spiel about, oh, we gotta put this big huge culvert in there and we gotta cover it all up, and Vern said, that's not what I'm asking for. And Mr. Ridgway, he's the representative for Alberta Infrastructure looking after the hospital project, he said, tell them to fence it.
Yeah.
Fencing is like 50 grand to fence it. He said, tell them to fence it. So that's what we're in negotiations right now with them, so.
Fence the walking trail off, or the stormwater?
Storm the whole pond, so nobody can get in there.
Fence, walking trail, fence, walking trail. I guess I'd take the walking trail.
Yeah, but it's not gonna cost $50,000 to do the little pathway.
I know, that's why I'd take the, rather than
Well,
the
that's
fence.
the way we put it back into their hands to
Probably don't
decide.
want someone sliding into the, detention
Like,
pond.
Vern had told these guys, he said, you wanna turn this over to us right now? And he says, you gotta think of the maintenance that, the town's gonna assume over the next, 200 years over this. We're gonna have to cut grass and maintain it, so
Okay,
we're negotiating.
yep. Anything else for Councillor Panasic?
Have you heard anything about the hospital's opening date? I've heard all kinds of rumors floating around out there.
April
about-
1st.
April 1st.
April 1st, yep.
April Fool's Day, really?
Yeah.
That's what they said, April
That's
1st.
what I heard, April.
So,
And has there been a delay because of any funding? Because that's what
Nope.
I've been hearing from LPNs that are working there.
Contractor had some delays, I know that.
There was some, I guess the rumor anyways, floating around out there from some of the staff is that there isn't the monies to furnish some of it available right now, and that's, it's gonna delay it, and there's arguments over staffing, like, from what I understand, that the LPNs are scrapping in there for shifts. And again, I don't know if it's true, that's why I'm asking, but April 1st was always the date. I thought it was gonna be open earlier than that.
January, towards the
Yeah.
end of January.
Yeah.
And now they've pushed it back to April 1st.
Okay.
They have
When
not
did they
hired,
push that back?
just recently, because when I went to a community partnership team meeting, that's when I asked, is this true? No, actually, I phoned Dr. Worry because I'd heard that, and he said, yeah, it's gonna be April 1st.
So why is the delay?
He didn't say, it was just contracting, just more stuff going on. But he did mention to keep your ears open on obstetrics, because the money for obstetrics was not included or has not been enough. So he said, make sure you continue to ask them, are we receiving money for obstetrics, and make them aware that you're very concerned about this. So if you hear anything about obstetrics or the fact that they may not be able to do it, make sure you speak up quickly, because Dr. Worry's area is aware that there might be a funding problem, but the commitment was made that we would have obstetrics in that hospital, and therefore they should be held to that. They have hired one nurse practitioner, Brenda Jenkins from Salt Prairie, has come back from Slave Lake. She lives in Salt Prairie, and she was hoping that the hospital here would provide employment. There's supposed to be another 3 nurse practitioners to be hired in March, April type of thing. Part of the reason that they have not hired any of the next staffing is they have no room in the old hospital to put them. So they'll gear up there. And, but there is a website where positions, I think, are being posted. And I looked at one of those websites 2 or 3 months ago. There were no positions there, and the one doctor position was 6 months, 8 months old. So I'm not sure if that's the website they're talking about, but.
Yeah, and what I had heard is that they're fighting over shifts because they had brought people on with the intent that the hospital was supposed to be open January 1st, or not January 1st, but by the end of January. And now they've brought in and hired these extra people. HR's made them promises they were gonna get so many hours. And now, because they don't have enough spots, they're not giving them hours. They've moved down here, and they're not getting the hours to pay their bills, so it's in HR, and it's a mess, according to what I've heard.
Councillor Gilroy?
Firsthand, staffing is not an issue. My wife is being offered more hours at last minute calls as a staff member at the hospital.
RN though,
Yeah, but
Yeah,
they're
no,
taking
it's-
they're taking.
it's not an
when it comes-
RN issue,
no,
it's
but
an
when it
LPN
comes
issue.
to the actual staffing, if they can't get an RN, they will get an LPN and just do the coverage a bit better. But what's happening is AHS is clamping down on too much overtime and trading of shifts and things like that. So there is some consideration in there that's happening as well. They're trying to streamline, as far as I know, to get it get it prepared for the new one. But I've heard that some of it is just contractor issues, but also there are some other things in play, yes, that are delaying it. We're all just waiting for the keys so we can get that helipad in. That's all I'm caring about right now, is I want that, us to be able to get the helipad so that we put all that money toward STARS. We can actually use STARS. So as soon as those keys are there, we can actually start getting ready for that helipad to be put in there.
One thing about AHS, and man, I'm beginning to think really there's a dysfunctional department, seriously.
Serious
Once I heard that the, well, not like this one. Once I heard that the date was going to be pushed back to April 1st, I asked Dr. Worry to get a news release out to the radio station and the local news and to us so that we could speak confidently about, okay, well, what is the date? And he said he would get on that immediately and to bring it up at the community partnership team. I brought it up there and they wrote it down diligently, but that has to go to communications, and then communications has to send it to infrastructure communications, and then it has to be vetted there, and like, it is incredible. When was the last time we got anything for a news release? Was it back in June of last year?
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time for,
And it's not like they don't have enough staff to handle all these
and it
tasks.
isn't like they put a lot in that news release. All it just says, big picture of the hospital, and then coming soon. It's like what do you call it? One of those Star Wars things, coming soon.
Or Tim Hortons, no.
Okay, anything else for our administrator? Anything you'd like to bring to our attention? Nope, okay. Yep, all right then. All in favor of receiving, and the action list?
Oh,
Anybody?
I'm in favor.
Okay, yeah, but is there anything in the action list? Because we only actually looked at the report. Does anybody have any questions on that? And I think, yeah, I did look a letter, take a letter on that. So it's getting shorter. You guys must be moving faster. So all in favor? And it is carried. The next item is the check listing. Could we get a motion on accepting that?
That
Councillor
council
Vanessa?
received the check listing for council for November 9th to the November 29th, 2016 for information.
All in favor? Okay. Just letting you know that we are moving forward on electronic funds transfer for the checks. And what have we got, 50, 40%? 40% are now?
I'd say only about 25 to 30%. We're hoping to have 45, 50 next year, and then from there we'll keep on plotting. But we won't be sending out an email to people saying you have until such and such a time to sign up until we have things running totally smoothly. But right now I'd say we're still at the 25, 30 that the initial push brought forward.
So we're moving ahead with technology. All right, next item is special meeting. Councillor Gilroy?
I move that council call a special meeting, that's the wrong date.
On
We're
December
past,
20th.
we're past November 20th already. Okay, on December 20th,
13th.
what? December 13th,
No, 20th.
Today's December 13th.
Okay, 20th.
okay.
So December 20th, is that the right date?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
I'm gonna start over here. I move that council call a special meeting on December 20th, 2016 at 7 PM to discuss in-camera personnel and the remainder,
And then stop, because we're gonna be
Oh.
finished.
personnel issues. And direct administration to advise accordingly. No,
We're
this is
done.
camera, okay.
Advertise, well, you should
But
advertise.
you have to-
Yes,
yes.
advertise.
Yeah,
And direct, yeah, we'll go with that. Okay,
Okay.
good one. So it's a partial, you'll make the changes? Okay. Everybody's got it marked, all in favor? Okay, and the last item is the written reports from the mayor and council, and I do have a small note from our timekeeper sitting at the computer there, and has said that the time for presentation of written reports shall not exceed 5 minutes. We are, due to the fact that people are giving oral reports, we seem to wander a bit more than is required or allowed. So I would like to thank the people who brought written reports this time, because it is nicer, as Councillor Danaka has said twice that I'm aware of. I wish people would do written reports. It enables me to ponder what it is that they have attended and what they got out of the meeting. So, as it is part of the procedure bylaw, oral reports are frowned on by the chair. I'm not sure how the rest of you feel. All right, so the first item is the mayor's report, and you have received it, and I move for information. Is there any questions on it? Councillor Gilroy?
I'm just gonna make the, after talking to you about the MLA Danielle Larive's open house and the information that was talked about regarding the old hospital site, I'm gonna make it public that I want, after that, I'd like to see a committee similar to the TOCO committee, put together to, and get Danielle to put together all the ministers involved so we can actually get this thing done. I'd like to really hash out same thing, go right down to Edmonton if we have to get this school done. I'm sort of tired of going from one to another. I feel like a ping pong ball, and I'd rather just get it done. So that's my comment on your report about the hospital site.
So this idea of a delegation going to Edmonton, would that be after we receive the letter saying that the land is there? I think also if we move along that route, we have to do it in consultation with the two school divisions and Northern Lakes College to ensure that we are now on the same path as those three, because they are then going to be the leads, not so much the town anymore.
That's exactly what I'm proposing, is that I would like to see that with them having all the numbers, and let's just get all the cabinet members that need to be there one time only, and just present the case so that they can't say, go to somebody else, just get it done, the town needs it.
Okay, I will bring that forward in January. So, is there any other comments on the report?
Have you got any contact with them? Like, I know you've been trying to get a hold of them to set up a meeting, but they haven't.
No, nobody has, I sent an email in early December, and I never received any actual response from any of them. And so I was basically thinking, well, Christmas is here now, there's no point. But in January, once I get this letter, I can then start pushing and saying, because the letter actually is going to say, the letter transferring it, she's already said it will be subject to the use of an integrated college on that site. So therefore, that is the impetus to say you guys have got to come up now, because The land is no good to us unless there's a college on there.
So that's what she said, like that,
Yeah.
that's sort of
That's what she said.
elaborating on that, was that the meeting you had with Danielle, she said that we would probably get support for that land.
Providing there's an integrated college on it. And it'll be right in the letter.
Okay, so did she update, because we met with David Egan, and we met with some of the ministers, and we didn't really hear back from them, have we, as to
No,
just the
but
Warman?
she did.
And that, so did she get then the feeling
That's
that
why
they
she-
like the idea
yeah.
of the integrated college, so
And
obviously?
she was quite surprised we hadn't received the letter yet,
Okay.
because it is crossing the minister's desk. And that, it's in the process, so.
I've heard rumors also that it's looking good for a college to get funding, but not necessarily the schools. I've heard that part, so.
Like you've actually heard that the schools might not get funding?
No, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard anything.
You've just heard that the college may get their funding?
Yeah, it's looking promising is what I've heard.
Well, there you go, think big, right? You never
Rumor
know.
mills are coming, but no idea if the schools are getting it. That's the other issue, right? And so what happens with the land if we don't get an integrated college?
We haven't even, I don't think we've even visualized not putting that on there. We can't afford to buy it. I know that, what did they say? 16 million? It was,
Retarded.
I mean, it wasn't even close to. Where'd you get that number from? Oh, I like that number. Let's
White
charge them this
Avenue or
one.
something, you know?
Downtown Edmonton, we was.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, so I guess if that doesn't come through, then we start negotiating as to what are we gonna do? Because they still have to tear it down, they still have to haul everything away and return it, so. And return it to a usable site.
Green
And then they
space.
will tender it for somebody to buy it, not necessarily the town.
We'll just think positive and work on the,
And one other question, though it's not in your report, any update on when TOCO will be making an announcement in January?
Yes, I talked to Bob Fleet this afternoon because there is a rumor going around town that the railroad spur is not in the mill anymore. And this person said, well, she had heard from a very, very reliable source that the spur had been pulled out. And I'm thinking, that's impossible because if you're going to reopen a mill, what are you going to ship your product on? So I emailed Bob Fleet and then I phoned him. And he said the spur is still there, but he's going to check because this person was adamant that there was a problem with that rail line. So he's going to check further on it. And then as for, he did say he was at Edmonton right now and they are reworking some of the clauses on the FMA, and they want to have this done before Christmas so that it gets presented to Cabinet in early January. And on the intermunicipal, there's a item there to discuss the announcement of the opening. It's not a grand opening, but it'll be an announcement of that we are reopening, and this is what we've done so far. And it's a question of, do we want to have the opening before the actual FMA is signed, or the announcement? Do you want to have the announcement before the FMA is signed, or do you want to have it after the FMA is signed? And I think it's up to the intermunicipal how they want to handle it. But feedback from this council is good because at least we need to know what our members think. Or does it make any difference to them, or what? And it'll include Danielle and hopefully a forestry representative.
so they haven't changed their tune at all with the US election?
Nope, well, it shouldn't affect them because.
He told us straight out that the only thing, Brian and I talked to him, that the only thing that would stop them from opening is Trump getting into office.
Well, he never even mentioned
Yes,
that.
he did say that, because he said it'll probably take a year before.
They have ordered their pieces or whatever it is that were the 6 to 8 month delivery. They've gone ahead and ordered that. Softwood lumber, it does not affect them because they're hardwood. The dollar is still low, and the housing starts are still.
So NAFTA, like the trade agreements, that doesn't affect them?
I'm not sure how
It
NAFTA.
would.
It will affect them, that's gonna be the issue.
It affects them.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't even that was the sort of the random conversation that we had. It had to do more with uncertainty in the US and housing
Housing
starts. It's just
starts.
housing starts.
Yeah, they were worried that the housing starts would drop if he got in, because there'd be uncertainty about the US economy now.
But we're not seeing that on the stock market, right? You're not really seeing that feeling of uncertainty, so maybe, I was just curious whether or not he's seeming like they're hedging at all, or they don't want to make an announcement, or.
Nope, the last text I got is, by the way, there are good things happening at the mill. And then when I phoned him, he elaborated more about there are good things happening at the mill.
So is there a timekeeper, or are we over the 5 minutes here?
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I
Who's
would rather have,
timekeeping?
I'd rather have
I know.
an announcement as soon as possible to encourage the people,
Yeah.
to let them know, even if you're saying we're gonna start looking for people as of this date. But I think it's very important that the people of this community and of this county know that.
Okay, as soon as possible. Do you want it after or before the FMA?
Soon.
Soon? Doesn't make any difference to you? Just get the announcement.
Sooner.
Okay, all right. So when we go to the intermunicipal, you'll have an idea of what our council is saying. And I move my report for information, which I have. All in favor? Okay, next item is Councillor Danaka, who has it written.
On my report in front of you, any questions?
Is the museum open now?
It will be opening on the 14th.
Did anybody else have any questions regarding the museum? Did you want to just elaborate, because she does have 2 minutes left, on the cleanup of the of the cleanup, the successfulness?
Public Works went in and basically put up plastic and scraped the walls down, and then washed them with a solution of bleach and water, and then cleaned everything up, and then we went in and repainted. There was a couple holes in the wall that you could see daylight right through, and
Awesome.
Oh, in this
we
weather?
cleaned them up. We also found that there was 7 registers plugged
Oh,
within that
Rags.
area.
to make them,
The vents were all plugged.
To redirect
So-
stop the heat.
to stop the heat.
So we opened them up, and I guess it's more livable in there, according to Darlene now.
Oh, awesome.
So,
That's good.
In your bylaw committee, do you bring the bylaws back to council for,
Yes.
oh, okay, so, and you finished the 60s?
We have finished the 62.
Sounds like this is gonna be a long
We-
process.
Going from 62 to 69, we just finished the 62.
You've only got 7 months left.
It's gonna be a process, it hasn't been done for years.
The entire bylaw committee is running for a re-election.
For 10 years.
Council, the rest of council may want to know that the bylaw committee found out that there's approximately 600 bylaws.
We could have started this 3 years ago.
I tried.
Okay, any other questions?
And any other questions? If not, I move my report for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Councillor Gilroy.
Mine's pretty much straightforward. I did want to add something, and it's a verbal, and that is I want to give kudos to the rec board for the No School PD Day Camp 2017. This council asked the rec board to find new ways to generate income, and this is an awesome way. Came home with my daughter from the school. Now, the only thing I wish it could happen is if we get the PD days from the Roman Catholic and the public school to be the same, I think we'd make even a better impact. But other than that, I've offered opportunities here if you want to get copies of our discussion paper on the tiny home trend, as well as any other ones in here, clarifications. I have all these copies that were presented to us, and I've gone ahead to, as mentioned a bit earlier, to ask for a representative then to come and to discuss with this board, this council, what they can do, what they have done, so that this council will have a better idea of how they want to move forward with projects over the next year that we are committed to Mackenzie Municipal. And any questions?
Why was it that the MD of Smoky River withdrew? I know they've completed all their projects, but don't they have others?
No, actually what happened is the MD of Smoky River is finishing off their contract. They've done everything they've asked to do, but instead of continuing on, they basically were able to hire a summer student who had the ability to do a lot of this stuff. So they were forward thinking. Their summer students and their interns were able to take over the work that they were having Mackenzie do. And so they said, hey, we're doing it in-house, then we don't need, and they were sorry that they were leaving, but they said, hey, if we can do it in-house, it's cheaper for us.
Just, is McLennan and Donnelly and Cherouville members?
I've got reports on what's happening in every community, which I'd be glad to share with anybody who'd like to look at it. I know that Falaire just, actually they went beyond what their contract was, and they actually re-upped for like another year or two. So that was quite interesting. But as I said, I give you and also explained anything you want in this package that I went to the December 2nd meeting on. I'd be more than happy to share it with you.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? It's carried. Councillor Long, Councillor Panasic.
Just a verbal report. The meetings I've been to is the couple of bylaw meetings and the broadband meeting, but the broadband meeting's been mentioned in Councillor Gilroy's report, and the bylaw's been mentioned in Councillor Danaka's report. So I move my report for information.
Ask you. Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Oh, I did have one question. The fees bylaw, is it moving along or what's happening there?
Absolutely it is. Yeah, we've gone over it, and there's lots of things that we found in the fees bylaw, and part of it is when it was brought in, they were supposed to change other bylaws, and those other bylaws haven't been changed. So for example, there's in the existing animal control bylaw, there's a fee for if your animal's caught, and it's different in the fees bylaw than it is in the animal control bylaw, because the old animal control bylaw has never been repealed and said that this is no longer applicable. So we're in a case where if we ever have issues, it could be really contradictory. So we identified those things and are trying to go back and clean those up so that we don't have those problems. And we're hoping to bring that fees bylaw back in early January, but we'll also, along with the fees bylaw, have to amend several other bylaws, and we want to bring them all in as a package so that it's all together. We're also finding things like a mobile home fee, and we have no idea what that's for, and yet it's been in the bylaws for years. So we, at our last meeting, we sat there and said, anybody know what this is for? Nobody did. So administration went back and tried to find what this was for, and they sent out an email, we don't know what it's for. We can't find anything. So that's why it's taking a while when you have things like that.
The other thing I would like to add regarding the fees bylaw is that we were finding as we were going through the different sections, animal control being number one, only part of the fees came across, like just the dog licensing and whatever, but all the rest of the penalties and that stuff never came
I was wondering why there were no penalties.
in the fees, and then we found that in other sections, other penalties never came across either. So it's almost like it's going to be a whole new fees bylaw because
We
these
gotta
things just
carry other
didn't get
things
added.
across, yeah.
So will you bring, for example, will you bring the animal control bylaw at the same time as the fees bylaw?
Well, we need to amend it. I don't think we're not gonna open up it other than just to amend and
Oh,
take
okay.
off the schedules. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. So we need to identify, well, we gotta bring, like Councillor Danaka says, there was whole sections that were not included in the fees bylaw. So if you, yeah, it was a little bit of a mess when you looked at that one, because it could cause a lot of confusion between what's the right bylaw to use on that, because one has one rate, and then we gotta carry the other things across and make it clean and easy to follow, so.
The mobile home license fee, is that what it was called?
No, it wasn't the license fee, it was called,
Was a mobile home permit
yeah, it wasn't the license fee. But I've already addressed half the questions that the bylaw committee had in that bylaw, and we've been working on it the past few days. We're hoping to send out an email to all the committee members shortly.
And in the revision of the Municipal Government Act, the NDP is, one of the revisions is that there will be no unsolicited nor door knockers
For the power?
for anything. They've listed a whole bunch of different things. So I'm not even sure if you need to have put in anything on your licenses for peddlers, because,
We have to keep it for now.
yeah, but the MJ Act is specifically outlawing that, because they got so many.
Door-to-door peddlers, though, not peddlers like the potato people who are.
No, not those. It's the door-to-door salespeople.
Do vendors at the farmers markets need specialized permits, or do they go right through Marigold?
I think farmers markets need something else.
They're probably working on their license, don't they?
Yeah, could be working under Marigold's license. But,
Just curious.
good point. You guys can think that over. Okay, Councillor Rose. Well, we already voted on that, and then I started to ask, because I knew there was something I wanted to ask.
So I provided you guys a report that wasn't in the agenda. And I mentioned, I went to the Alberta 55 Plus game meeting, and we're gonna work with them in December as far as trying to help them with some funding. They've got a $20,000 shortage in their budget. They're gonna get from registration the majority of what they need to run the games, but they are going to be short. Now so they're not sure how they're going to come up with funding. So it is an opportunity maybe that may come to the town, so they may apply for a grant, just so you guys know where they're at with that. And they are looking for signage, so I just thought I'd throw that out there now we can think about it. They want a big banner or a big sign that's going to advertise the games, welcome to High Prairie, the home of these games. It might be a good opportunity for us to support it in that way, where we can, High Prairie is going to get a little bit of advertising that way. And they're looking for somebody to help them out with some funding, and that's one of the items on their list. So I was just seeing that as an opportunity to advertise the town a little bit, and they want, I don't know where for sure, but they want some big places this big sign. Yeah, other than that, the restoration board meeting, we didn't deal with the budget, but we did, deal with some of the, increases in some of the activities, right? They've got that PD camp, they've got Pound Fitness, they're doing these extra swimming things, they've got Santa, Swim with Santa, Skate with Santa. I guess some of those things were free for the community, but a lot of them are fee-based activities that they're trying to generate some income. And then in discussion, what's happening with the positions, the administration positions, they're sort of turning one of their positions into a programming position. The girl that's doing it is taking on more programming responsibilities. So we talked to them about resubmitting, I guess, their organizational chart for the administration, and because they're taking some of the responsibilities from the rec director, and I think Lori's old position was an office manager position that got filled, so they're filling that between her job as a rec director and they have an office assistant. So they're looking at new names for some of the positions, which will involve a programmer, but it won't involve any more money or any more positions. They have a hole right now in their organizational chart, so they seem to think that there's more value in just taking it out and resubmitting it. Once they do that, if that gets accepted, I can bring that to council and show you guys. And if you don't have any questions?
Councillor Gilroy.
Just, actually, it's a question concerning the chamber, and that is, we rent them space next door, and it is on a grant basis. I think we provided a grant for them. When does that end? And if so, if it ends at the end of this year, are they then going to be applying for a new grant? Would be one thing. And
If my memory serves me right, the grant is until the end of March?
Someplace.
Yeah, it's
I'm just kind of curious because of the way that works.
yeah, and I believe that they hope to ask for the space again. And I think that we had discussed this at a previous council meeting as to maybe there could be a trade for if the chamber is going to continually run a gala event and the town would like to have sort of that opportunity to sponsor the gala event. It could be maybe a trade-off for the space. And I guess it'll depend on whether the town feels that there's other tenants that have actual real money that are going to pay for this, and they would actually, and they're, and that's going to be the way that the town wants to go. I mean, that'll be a decision that council will make when that comes to the table.
The other one is the comment on the Alberta 55 games. Just a reminder to the council that you did approve a letter of support for one of the grants they were applying for. As I was not let in on the last meeting, which I have to talk to Mary about.
Look at Brian Croker was, because that's how you're here in the minutes.
Great,
That's another Brian floating around.
I'm going to go for a name change here soon, but just let you know, there is that bid that you have as a council. You got it in on time. I have the text from the treasurer having said thank you. He got it on time and he applied it. So we need not look directly at the $20,000 budget deficit until we hear something from them about that extra money. What they're looking at was, I believe it was $65 per person or per participant and non-participant. But the cost of everything in their budget was about $120. That's where the deficit comes in.
They got turned down. But they're still applying for other grants. Just so this council knows that apparently it used to be that the senior games were funded and
Can you put your mag?
would get some provincial money, and now it's only for youth tournaments or youth provincial games that they give any funding for. Seniors have to fund it themselves with the registration fee and whatever they can fundraise for, but they are applying for grants. They have some assistance from the county as well with applying for some grants, and maybe they'll get their shortfall.
Maybe we should have a letter from Slave Lake.
I have one question, and actually it's for administration. Can you find out how much it costs to do that wrap at the campsite that says, "Welcome to High Prairie Oil Sands, Peace Oil Sands"? Because that's a plastic wrap, I think, and that would be an ideal to put up "Welcome to the Alberta 55 Games." And it's a very permanent billboard that they've put there. And maybe we could look at putting one at the other end of town. Also.
Just help them out with sort of promoting it.
And we can always use it after for
Other signage.
other signage, because I mean, if you get any of these provincial tournaments, let's find out what a cost of a wrap is and just put it
You bet.
into our economic development and find, because I mean, if it's only, what, $250 to do a wrap, there's quite a few times that through the year that it would make sense for us to put it up.
Yeah, no, it's a good opportunity to, home of whatever's going on at that time. I think that people actually like to know.
Yeah.
And it's a
And
little
they're good
complicated.
signs. I mean, they're,
Our council could open it to the Elks to promote their stampede.
yeah.
What are we referring to? I'm not sure if I'm following,
It's a
like
big
the
sign-
billboard?
It's a big sign that's in the campground.
Not the big billboard, but there is a sign there and it's blue. And as you drive into town, it's right in the campsite.
Yeah.
It's not Pattison's billboard.
Oh, okay, it's not Pattison.
No.
That's what I thought you were
No,
talking
no, no.
about, the
It's
other one.
our billboard. It's in the campsite.
Oh, okay.
And
It's big.
It's big and it says, welcome to High Prairie, home of Peace Oil Sands.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I think we're finished with that now and we'll move on. So, and it's a wrap, so it can't be that much, I wouldn't think. All right, that was my only question on that.
No other questions?
And she's moved for information. All in favor? It's carried. And I believe that ends our agenda.